Chicken noodle soup. Let's get cooking. Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Fat Boy Cooking with me, your host, the floating torso wearing a dark denim apron. On today's episode we are going to be making a chicken noodle soup, which happens to be one of my favorite soups here on the entire planet of Earth. Fall up here in Wisconsin is almost done, and you know what that means. Winter is coming. Yes, winter is coming, and that means we have to make something that's going to fill our bellies and make us all warm and cozy on the inside. As always, the recipe will be included down below in the description, so be sure you check there. And in a second here, I'll be posting the awesome ingredient list for your viewing pleasure. Anyways, let's get on with this video. So while I struggle to cut and peel this onion, let's talk about our ingredients, shall we? To make this chicken noodle soup, you will need 3 pounds of chicken thighs, 4 ribs of celery, 4 medium-sized carrots, 1 large onion, which is being cut on screen, 10 cups of chicken stock, 3 cups or 8 ounces of egg noodles, 6 sprigs of thyme, a 1/4 cup of parsley, 2 cloves of garlic, the juice of half a limon, 1 tablespoon of canola oil, and additional salt and pepper. Alright, now so back to this onion. All I did was cut the tip off, make a nice vertical slice right down the middle, and struggle to peel off the paper. Like, it was super hard to peel this off. I'm weak. So fast forwarding about 3 minutes, I finally got the onions peeled. Now I'm going to wiggle behind to move the camera so we can get a better angle of the next segment, which is dicing the onion. Now that my high quality camera angle has changed, it's time to make small vertical cuts down the onion, spaced at about 1/2 inch. Then turning the onion to make horizontal cuts at about 1/2 inch for a 1/2 inch dice. Also, make sure you're using a sharp knife because I made that mistake and my knife was just a little dull. Put the diced onion into a bowl and set aside for future use. Alright, check 1, hone knife. Check 2, new camera angle, because that one was not high quality and it kind of sucked. So taking these awesome 4 ribs of celery, I'm just going to cut off the ends because they were a little bit not nice looking. Then make a nice slice right down the middle of that celery. Then chop it at 1/2 inch for the perfect diced celery. Then repeat the same steps for the final 3 ribs of celery. Using your big meaty claws, put that celery into a bowl and set aside for future use. Alright, now it's time to move on to the carrots. So pull out your peeler and it's time to shave them to get rid of all that nasty skin. Ain't nobody got time for that stuff. And I would like to take a minute, so sit right there, and I'm going to tell you a story of how this video is so late because it got corrupted. So I'm very sorry for that, but it's time to get this done. Once you're done peeling the carrots, take all the peelings and just throw them in the trash. They're garbage. You don't want those. Unless you do, but I'm not one to judge. Now we're going to cut the tip and the top. The tip and the top, that makes sense, right? We're going to cut the tip and the top of the carrot off and make a slice down the middle just like the celery. Now in the middle of the thicker end, I'm going to make another cut down the middle just so that when we dice it, it's a little more symmetrical and even. Just don't cut all the way down the carrot. Please don't do that. Unless it's a small, skinny boy, then it's okay. Now that's out of the way, let's move on to dicing it. So just flip around, push them together, and just 1/2 inch dice all the way down the carrots. You know the drill, just like the celery, And then continue to repeat the process for the rest of those orangey, strong muscles, good eye boys. Gotta maintain that 20/20 vision, am I right? I am. Trust me, I'm right. And then once done, just put it in the bowl with the rest of the celery and set aside for a later use. Now it's time to pick off some parsley leaves off their stems. I don't know why that voice was necessary, but it was, and I'm just gonna roll with it, so enjoy. Question mark, question mark, question mark. But in all seriousness, we are going to pick off each leaf. It's okay if you leave a little bit of stem, it's not gonna hurt anything, but you do not want a lot for this process. Then pick up your knife and chop those green boys until they're nice and fine for some finely chopped parsley, or as some would say, fine herb. Even though technically that's a mix of different types of herbs like parsley and thyme and chives, but fine herb, the dankest. Now that our parsley is all nice and chopped, put that in a bowl as well and set aside for the explanation of our beautiful mise en place, which is right here. So here we have our chopped onions, our celery and carrots, 1 lemon, 2 cloves of garlic, our awesome chopped parsley, and our chicken thighs that I'm gonna slap because they're beautiful. So do you remember that comment I made about having the 20/20 eyesight and how good carrots are for you? Well, I should take my own advice. Technically, I should be using skin on and bone in chicken thighs, but my stupid butt decided that I was gonna buy the skinless, boneless version. But I'm not perfect, and to be honest with you, it is okay to make mistakes in the kitchen. The kitchen is a classroom, and you can always learn from those mistakes. Just keep that in your heart, alright? Alright, so onto the chicken thighs with the skin and the bones, and I'm using air quotations here. There's skin and bones in there, alright? I'm gonna make you believe it, even though there's not. All you gotta do is just lay them out on a sheet tray lined with some paper towel. Then just slap another piece on top and let them dry out for a little bit, you know, get rid of all that excess moisture. After a few minutes, peel that nasty chicken flavored paper towel off, and it's time to season these bad boys. And the good old S&P is the only way to go for me. Just make sure you season both sides for optimum flavor. And just between me and you, we're still pretending these have skin on them, okay? Still pretending, so yeah. Luckily, there is still a little bit of fat that we can render. So into a pan, we're going to add about 2 tablespoons of a neutral oil like canola. Be sure to turn that heat on and get that bad boy hot. Once you can see the ripples in the oil, it's time to add our chicken thighs skin side down into the pan. Again, air quotations, skin side down. We're going to let these sizzle away for 4 to 5 minutes until they develop a nice golden brown color. I highly recommend doing this in batches so you don't overcrowd your pan and you develop a nice color for each chicken thigh. For me, I did about 4 pieces at a time. So after the 4 to 5 minutes, flip them over and allow them to cook on the other side for about 2 to 3 minutes. Just put them on a plate and set aside for future use. Yes, they are still technically raw, but they're going to finish cooking later in the process. So now into the same pan with all those chicken drippings and all that grease, we're going to add our onions. Now we're going to let these saute for a few minutes until they start to turn a little bit translucent and sweat down just a little bit. So after a few minutes, we're going to microplane 2 cloves of garlic into the onion mix and let cook for an additional 1 to 2 minutes. I don't know if anyone else has the same problem, but all my stuff likes to stick to the bottom of my microplane and I have to scrape it off, and it gets super annoying. Does anyone have any tips for this? I'm asking for a friend here, guys. So now we're going to be adding in 10 cups of our homemade chicken stock. Now you can use the store-bought stuff here, but if you want to find out how to make your own, I will include that link down in the description below, as well as up top there should be a little card there. Plus, homemade is always a little more sexier and tasty. Give it a little stir to release that fond or those dark brown sexy bits that increase the flavor, and bring to a boil. Once at a boil, it's time to add our chicken thighs that have been sitting on a plate back into the liquid. You just gotta stuff them all in there, just stuff them. They will fit, I promise you, as long as you are using a 6-quart size or bigger pot, which I probably should have mentioned earlier in the video. So I'm sorry for that, but I'm saying it now. So once all those chicken thighs are added into the soup mixture, it's time to add in our celery and carrots. Mix it all up to incorporate those flavors. To that, I'm going to add about 6 or 8 sprigs of thyme. I kind of forgot exactly how many I added, but between 6 or 8 should do you fine. Reduce the heat, cover the pot, and let it simmer away for 25 to 30 minutes, or until the chicken is tender and just delicious. Delicious, yes. Delicious. So after that time has passed, remove the chicken thighs from the soup, transfer back onto a plate, and set aside. This is also a good time to remove any stems of the thyme that might be in there. That might be in there? No, they are going to be in there. Come on now. So now I'm going to check for seasoning and realize that this needs some salt. So to my mix, I added about 3 tablespoons of kosher salt. Now if you are going to be using store-bought stuff, be very, very careful with how much salt you add, as they could run salty themselves. So viewer, seasoning discretion is advised on this step. And I'm also going to add a few turns of fresh cracked black pepper. Give it a little mixy mix, and it's time to add 3 cups or 8 ounces of eggy noodles into the soup. Now we're just going to let it chill with no heat, covered, for 20 to 22 minutes until the noodles are nice and tender. So as we are waiting for our noodles to cook, it is time to shred our chicky thighs into nice edible bite-sized pieces. Now only move on to the step if the chicken is cool enough to handle. I don't want you burning your fingers, because burnt fingers are not fun. Unless you're into that, and for that I can say do it at your own risk. Just no judgment on my end, no judgment. So now that the noodles have been cooked to completion, it is time to add all our chicky chunks back into the pot. Then add in a 1/4 cup of parsley. Then the juice of 1 limon, being sure not to get any of those lemon seeds into the pot like I did. But if you do, just pick them out. No harm in that. Give everything a nice mixy mix to make sure everything looks good. Be sure to give it one more check for seasoning and find out that you missed a time stem. So that's a little embarrassing. Just don't be like me. So now it's time to bowl everything up and enjoy this soup. And wow, this shot came out extremely blurry. So I apologize for that, but it is the only shot I have of this. So just bear with me on this one. I promise it will probably happen again, but I'm going to try not to. And for some garnish, throw some oyster crackers on there, and your chicken noodle soup is done. So there you have it, homemade chicken noodle soup. A meal that will make your belly feel all warm and cozy on the inside. Like I said before, I do want to apologize for this video coming out so late. I ran into some problems in final production, but everything is fixed. I got the video edited for your faces. So I hope you enjoyed it. Do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you on the next episode of Fat Boy Cooking. Take care, everybody. Peace out.